Hi, I'm Brenda Rose, and this is my presentation on the Children's Internet Protection Act. So what is the Children's Internet Protection Act, known as CIPA? It was passed by Congress in 2000 as a way to kind of safeguard against children being exposed to obscene or harmful content on the internet. The Federal Communications Commission issued a set of guidelines of rules that went with CIPA in 2001, and then they updated them in 2011, kind of as technology and things had changed. So what are CIPA's requirements? Kind of the overall gist of how these requirements came to be is that there are a lot of schools and libraries that receive a discounted rate on their internet usage through the E-rate program. And so in order to qualify for this discount, they set up a list of guidelines to kind of help safeguard against minors in their internet usage. The whole purpose was that the E-rate program wants to make this internet access more affordable and attainable for various schools and libraries that qualify. However, there are some regulations tied in with that discount. So what is the E-rate policy? There are three main things for schools and all libraries that they have to meet in order to qualify. The first is that they have to have an internet safety policy that kind of has protective measures built in to help safeguard minors from different things on the internet that they feel are inappropriate or that they should not have access to. This measure has to have some kind of filtering or blocking system so that any pictures that they can deem as obscene, pornography, or anything that would be considered harmful to minors would be filtered out. The third thing is that there has to be a reasonable notice set forth of these protective measures so that other people in public are aware of them, and they also have to hold a public forum to kind of discuss the policy and be open to communication that way. The Internet Safety Policy requirements state that they have access to content has to be filtered out that's considered inappropriate for minors, which that's kind of an area that can be up for debate back and forth. Also have to provide safety and security in utilizing online communication, meaning emails, chat rooms, social media. All of those things need to have some safeguards built in. There also needs to be protection against having hacking or other illegal activity taking place online so that minors cannot get in trouble that way. Another thing that has to be kind of protected against is having unauthorized use of personal information and giving out, receiving that type of personal information in a way that could be harmful to minors. And it also has to restrict access to any material that they would deem as inappropriate for these minors. Now, in addition, schools have two other requirements in order to qualify for the E-rate policy. First is that they have to be able to monitor what is happening on their online activity of their minors, and they also have to be able to provide training to those minors on what's considered appropriate behavior on the internet, how to interact with others, how to prevent cyberbullying, those types of activities that the internet kind of tends to lend itself to. So how has my past district kind of helped to address these? The main part is that there's an acceptable use policy agreement that all students and parents sign within the district, and it states very clearly in here that the school district reserves the right to monitor all use of technology systems, and that the district may at their discretion review any and all technology systems, including computers and files, accessed by users. So this does put in the safeguard of being able to monitor and make note of what is taking place out on the internet with the technology that is provided to the students. We did have a situation this last year via email that we had some conversations going back and forth that were not appropriate, as well as kind of borderline some bullying taking place, not directly to the student, but about a student between others. And this is where we did have to go ahead and pull out this acceptable use policy agreement, access those files, and then set forth the consequences that were laid out as part of this policy as well. And the second area of how do we kind of go about educating our students is we did a couple of different things in order to do that. The first is that the very first day of school, instead of students actually going to their regular classes, we set up different workshops. And within one of those workshops, we went over the acceptable use policy, kind of what our requirements were for them to access the technology, what our expectations were, what the consequences were, so that up front the students kind of knew what was the policy that they had signed, what were our expectations for them, and what was the proper way to use those technologies. Secondly, we brought in a technology team that did a presentation over cyberbullying. This is a very powerful presentation to the students, went through kind of some of the legalities of cyberbullying and ways that this cyberbullying has taken place, and kind of brought to light to the students what cyberbullying really is and how have they also contributed to it, because for a lot of students they didn't necessarily understand the term and what all it involves. Lastly, probably one of the other most powerful things that we did is that we had a team of local lawyers come in to present to our junior high students, and they brought in with them some samples of cases that they have prosecuted or are currently prosecuting when it comes to inappropriate use of the internet by minors and against minors. And so kind of brought up with the students some of the legalities of things such as sexting, sending pictures back and forth, cyberbullying, all of those things that they don't always stop to think about, that there are kind of consequences and repercussions at even their age for this types of use. So all of these were kind of ways that we helped to educate our students, hoping that it would make an impact for them in the future. So what if CIPA is not followed? This was taken directly off of their website, that you can file complaints in various different ways. The complaints can be filed by anybody that feels that CIPA is not being followed, either by the schools or by the libraries. So kind of a safeguard again to make sure that they are being held accountable for the requirements that are set forth. The resources that I used was the online parent-student handbook from Ellis Junior High, as well as the FCC government page on the Children's Internet Protection Act.